Hello again and welcome back to another video, and today we are looking at a scenario where the Byzantine Empire came back at its greatest extent in the modern day. Immediately this would become arguably the third most powerful country. It would easily be behind the US and China in economy and military and influence and everything, but it would probably be ahead of Russia in most ways, including population, economy, and possibly even military, as they control some absolute juggernauts such as Italy, Turkey, Greece. They control all of Serbia, southern Spain, the entire North African coast, which is arguably one of the most important parts of Africa in the modern day and especially historically. They also control most of Egypt, the Levant, including most of Syria and Jordan. They control a small bit of Armenia, the key port of Sevastopol, and southern Crimea. And along with that, they control Bulgaria, Croatia, parts of France and Switzerland, parts of northern Morocco, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, and Slovenia. So yeah, this would be a very powerful country, but let's look at how it could get even more powerful. Starting off with all the others, with a quick grab all the lands that cannot survive, like this part of northern Italy. Barely holds 2 towns at best. Incredibly weak, easy to destroy. Some other ones include Syria, who literally just has this sliver of land, and Jordan, who has this piece of desert and this piece of desert. Along with that, Tunisia may still look of decent size, but is incredibly weak. And as is Egypt, but that is going to come slightly later. So yeah, nearly immediately after starting out their existence, they quickly annex states on their border that were microstates without any cities at all. For Syria and Jordan, it was all just desert. And for Italy and Slovenia, it was just random towns that nobody could care less about. Not a massive expansion, but they don't mind. From there, they will start their first actual war, which is against Algeria, Libya, and Egypt. This is once again not going to be too hard of a challenge. Egypt is practically dead after capturing the coastline and all Nile territories, along with pushing in slightly inland, which is surprising, into the desert. Egypt capitulates. Libya doesn't even have cities, doesn't have any real populated areas. This is all just desert. Along with that, we have Algeria, who has a sliver of coastline and some more inland areas which are still fairly populated, but with the fall of all coastal trade and making both countries literally entirely desert, they both capitulate as well. Seeing as Byzantine, what is this, the Byzantine Republic, I guess? Byzantium, let's call it, doesn't really care about the desert. They take any other territories that have any amount of people or resources inside of them and put the rest to some kind of Saharan puppet state. An extension of Greece itself, or Byzantium itself, that they really just could not care less about. They do not want to send in troops, and this is mostly an area where militia groups against Byzantine rule exist. Apart from that, this is not the largest expansion. This will barely make them stronger, if making them stronger at all. Alright, where are they going to go next? Well, just looking at the map, we can see a few places where some old borders exist that they're going to have to change, and a country on the border that has been weakened but not destroyed, and that would be very valuable to have fully under their control. That country, if you haven't noticed already, is Morocco. So soon enough, they begin an invasion of Morocco, quickly linking up in the north with their Algerian lands and pushing down the Moroccan coastline, capturing most lands west of the mountains. They then follow up by pushing through the mountains into all of northern Morocco, along with naval invading the west. After losing their coast and the expansion of the war into Western Saharan regions, as that is where a lot of Moroccan troops went afterwards, Morocco will be surrendering. Once again, no choice at all. They did not stand a chance. And a very similar thing will happen to them than what happened to Algeria and the rest of them. They're going to be split between lands that the Byzantines care about and lands that they really just could not care any less about. Western Sahara is also going to be granted to this client state to give it an area to work with, besides just desert where, as I mentioned, anti-Byzantine elements were roaming. This is also assuming that there are no organizations such as NATO or any pacts between Russia and other nations, etc. This is just a world where the Byzantines can expand as they please. From here, they're going to stop expansion into Africa and actually go for a different region, that region being Iberia. And their by far toughest fight yet, they will be going up against Spain and Portugal. Spain had been pretty much trying to push the Byzantines out of Iberia, managing to capture much of the Iberian lands, but the Byzantine army still hasn't arrived, and it is believed that once they do, they will crush them. Of course, Spain will have a friend, that friend being the very, very powerful France, who will begin an assault along the Alps into Italy. Once they get past the Alps, they start an attack along the coastline, crushing a lot of the heartland of Byzantium. From there, with French aid, the Byzantines are kicked out of Iberia, and they're pushed entirely out of northern Italy. From here, though, they managed to stall all French advances, and actually managed to push the French army back. Soon enough, the Byzantines will push the French all the way back to the Alps and set up a front line there. They will also naval invade all Spanish islands and begin to plan a naval invasion of Barcelona, as their naval might is insane, having taken over all North African, Italian, and Balkan navies. We're also going to assume that all these countries suddenly just speak the same language, have the same culture, and have nothing against each other in any way, shape, or form. They are completely fine with each other and do not want to rebel and make their own nation. Alright, let's continue with the naval invasion. The attack itself on Barcelona fails, but a small attack near Catalonia, especially into southern France, goes fairly well. Soon enough, Barcelona is encircled, and most of Catalonia falls, along with a lot of the Spanish coastline. Once Barcelona falls, the Spanish finally manage to get some troops in and push them back together with French troops. But overall, they are not able to kick them out completely. And before they are, the Byzantines manage to land back into Gibraltar, and the rest of southern Spain. They also begin another counteroffensive on the French front with a small naval landing, capturing the city of Nice, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that city, and the rest of this southern Frankish region. So yeah, this is quickly turning against the Spaniards and the French. Soon enough, the Byzantines managed to recapture most of southern Iberia, with only small Spanish expeditions still existing, and they even begin an invasion into southern Spain, and especially into Portugal, as they attempt to kick the Portuguese out of the war by capturing the Portuguese capital. Soon enough, they've captured all of southern Portugal, including the city of Lisbon, and this causes the entire Portuguese nation to surrender. This gives massive way for the Byzantine troops to spearhead their way into Spain, managing to capture Madrid within 2 weeks of the capitulation of Portugal. They also quickly push up into Galicia to further exclude Spain from global trade. Spain does manage to recapture Madrid and much of northern Portugal and Galicia, as that is where they've now focused their army, but in the south, the Byzantines managed to link up with a naval invasion, and all of the Mediterranean is now under Byzantine control. Soon enough, a peace treaty will be drawn up, as the Byzantines know they won't get very much further here. The French are planning a massive counteroffensive, and multiple other nations, such as the UK, Germany, Poland, or Romania, are considering joining in, which would make this fight much more difficult. So they settle for taking small parts of southern France, along with all of southern Portugal, including Lisbon, and southern Spain, along with a region in Catalonia, including Barcelona. The rest of these lands will be given back to the blue team, as Portugal and Spain are united, or at least what's left of them is united, along with Andorra, while the French just lose some minor southern lands and are still considered at least a fairly powerful nation. So yeah, although they still do not control the full old Roman borders or the entire Mediterranean coast, they definitely have the most influence there. They managed to crush the Spanish fleet, and most importantly the French one, in the Mediterranean, and controlling the entrance and exit, along with most of the land, makes it entirely theirs in all but name. From here, they're going to decide to at least somewhat abandon Western Europe. The Spanish-Frankish alliance has now expanded into the Low Countries, and even Germany is considering joining, entirely to stop the Byzantines from taking over all of Europe. What region is at least not anytime soon going to join in? The Northern Balkans and Central Europe. They quickly managed to declare war on Romania and push up, capturing Bucharest within 1 week. After another 2 weeks, they have captured most of southern Romania, and honestly, by the end of the month, Romania will be dead. They then stage an invasion to Moldova and Hungary, looking to expand their influence northwards. From here, they're going to start a much more difficult war against Ukraine, but even this is not going to be too much of a challenge. Russia is struggling due to Western support and Ukrainian morale. We're assuming that the Russia-Ukrainian conflict just disappeared in this timeline, but Russia will be taking this opportunity to rejoin and declare war on Ukraine separate from ours. Quickly begin an invasion of the north, as this is incredibly easy, seeing as the entire Ukrainian army was on the Byzantine front. The Russians quickly managed to capture all of the north, including the Ukrainian capital of Kiev, but the Byzantines do manage to capture the rest of Hungary, all of western Ukraine, including Lviv, Lvov, that city, and all of the Black Sea coastline. The Russians take the rest of the north, and a peace treaty is now being planned. The Byzantines want all of Ukraine, the Russians want all of Ukraine, so in the end, nobody will get all of Ukraine. The Russians managed to take the north and get themselves a central protectorate of Ukraine, and the Byzantines annexed the rest of the nation. This is probably not a fair land exchange for the Russians, but once again, the Byzantines were by far the most powerful nation in this agreement, and the Russians also unite with Belarus. One, for protection of Belarus is what they use to justify it, but mainly just to increase their own power projection in the region and stop the Byzantines from making too much progress. As I mentioned, this is turned into a Russian satellite. At least that's what happened. So the rest of Ukraine, although once again, all but Russian and everything but name. This has also constituted a major expansion of Byzantine borders further into the Northern Balkans, securing their heartlands, which are around the cities. Probably their heartlands would be around Rome, around Athens, around Istanbul, which should probably be renamed Constantinople. Another major region would be in northern Egypt, possibly near Algiers, near Barcelona, and those are probably the main regions that they center across, all along the Mediterranean. This rebirth of a Mediterranean empire would also give, a new superpower to the world. After expanding this much, they are now in contention with China and possibly even the USA for global hegemony, due to their much simpler position of expansion. They are not done yet, though, as they invade Czechia and Slovakia, resetting up a Czechoslovak state. They also invade Austria, although they will not have this good of a fate, as they will be split, with the Byzantines taking the south, including Vienna, and the rest being turned into a rump state that is still ruled over by Byzantines. As for Switzerland, they're not going to have a much better fate. They decide to remain neutral despite losing all of their land, and although this will be an extremely drawn-out war, the Byzantines will eventually come out on top. We'll keep mapping that as time goes on. Now let's look at this anti-Byzantine alliance. It started off between Spain and France, but by now the Benelux are completely in on it. And after seeing the fall of Austria and Czechia, the Germans also join. Along with this, the Poles join to set up the European Defense League, an anti-Byzantine faction. Soon enough, Ireland joins, and even the United Kingdom, despite not being directly threatened, is considering joining this alliance. Next up, though, will be the Baltic states, not even entirely against Byzantine protection, but also against Russian protection. The Finns join for the same reason, and the Danes join for economic benefit. They do not see war coming, but if there is, they would rather be on this side. Where are the Byzantines to go from here? They could attempt to take on this European coalition, but more likely than not, the Russians would take advantage, the UK would join in, and possibly even the Middle East would join in against them. So they need to pacify these regions first. And in a bid for global domination, they declare war on the entirety of the Middle East. If they win this war, they will have full access to global oil reserves. Along with that, they will have major influence into Asia, becoming probably the 5th largest nation, if they are not already. I'm surprised they didn't take Turkey before, and the only reason they didn't is because I forgot to mention it. But now Turkey's in on it, and the entire Middle East is under attack. The Byzantines are quickly going to take advantage of the fact that these countries hate each other, and there's no way they would be working together, by capturing most of Iraq, and of course whatever's left of Turkey. They would also manage to take a small amount of northern Saudi Arabia. From here, they would start an invasion of northern Iran, incredibly mountainous already, but it only gets worse in the rest of western Iran. And pushing into Azerbaijan will give them even more oil, and with the capture of Baku, they now also have a very important city along the Caspian Sea. The rest of Azerbaijan falls soon, and after Yerevan, the Armenians die as well. The Georgians attempt to fight off in the mountains, but they do not stand a chance either. Soon enough, the Byzantines even reach to Kuwait, capturing the nation, and a lot of the Persian Gulf, which is where all this oil and natural gas comes from, where all Qatari and such wealth comes from. So yeah, Iraq has fallen, Iran has been harmed, and Kuwait has been completely taken over. Who's next? Well, of course, Qatar is. A small naval invasion in the country, along with ground support, causes the complete capitulation of the nation, and after a few other assaults, all of northern Saudi Arabia has fallen. Along with this, another assault along the Persian coastline, Iranian coastline, causes the entire country to be practically cut off from the rest of Arabia. Around here, though, I do see a peace treaty coming into effect, as the Byzantines have won. They will be securing influence over the Middle East, and overall, they will now be ruling the entirety of Western Asia, Northern Africa, the Balkans, and Southern Europe. With that, I am going to end it here as it is getting longer, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.